Welcome back to Sports Recap. Joining me on this segment is head coach of the varsity football team, Mr. Brandon Curden. Thank you for joining me on the show, Mr. Curden.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
Now, me and Mr. Curden during this segment are going to discuss heading into the regular season for the varsity football team. So, who are some key players?
Well, I think there were many players that contributed to our success. However, I think you need to look at guys like David Pribble-Pierdenach, Ryan Swift, two returning captains, and certainly Dean Zigelich, as well as our leading returning receiver. Those three guys have been up on the varsity level with us for the past 2 years going into this year. So that core group of guys, and followed up with captains Frank Urbanski and Zach Butch Whitkin. I think those guys were the foundation of our leadership heading into the year, and they all had experience playing at the varsity level.
So how'd you feel about Ryan Swift being his third year at the varsity level?
I felt great. You know, we knew we had a great quarterback and knew that we had a very solid linebacker in Ryan Swift. He's a tremendous leader and he's a tremendous worker. And I think, again, you know, you have a guy like that leading from the front. It's hard to be on that team and not take notice of his efforts and the things that he brings to the table.
So who are some new players heading into their first year at the varsity level?
I think, you know, there were a lot of contributors within the junior class. You know, I think of guys like Declan Lanham, Jalen Williams, Joey Swallow, Jamari Wise, you know, the McCloskey brothers. I think you can go on and on about some of the juniors that really popped when their best football was needed. They were able to bring it, so we're excited about, you know, being able to work with those guys for another year.
So what were some of the expectations then coming into the regular season?
I think the expectations are always the same year in and year out. You want to put yourself in a position to deserve success, to deserve victory, and I think you do that obviously by getting your mind and body right in preseason camp, you know, learning your assignments, things of that nature, and making sure that you're in top physical condition. That's certainly the expectation as we prepare. We try not to look out to so much who our opponent is, but what it is we can control, what we're in charge of, if you will. So again, a lot of that is knowing our assignments, knowing where we're supposed to be on the field and when we're supposed to be there, and you know, again, just putting ourselves in a position to deserve success.
So heading into you felt that your team was ready for a regular season that was going to be majority away? Sure,
as ready as you can be, you know, and especially obviously this year was very unique, having to play on the road for the first 5 weeks, and what a lot of people, you know, fail to realize is, you know, not only are we on the road for game day, but we're on the road for each and every practice pretty much. So that takes a toll on our players and obviously our staff, but I think we kind of looked at it as a challenge, and I think we're able to embrace that identity, if you will, and not compromise our core values or what our goals were.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break, but don't change the channel, because when we come back, we're going to discuss the varsity football team's historic regular season. Welcome back to Sports Recap. During this segment, Coach Curden and I are going to discuss the varsity football team's historic regular season. So, Coach, how do you feel about knowing that your first 5 games were going to be on the road while the Kennelly Athletic Complex was under construction?
Well, obviously it was a challenge, and it was something that was out of our control. There wasn't a whole lot we could do about it. You know, we knew what the situation was going into the season, but again, it doesn't change the way you prepare your thought process heading into the season. You know, you take it one game at a time, 1 week at a time, as cliche as it may sound. You know, everything throughout the summer camp was in preparation for Morton Mustangs.
So you guys started off winning all 5 games on the road. So your thoughts on starting off 5-0?
Obviously, great start. You know, it's a great start, and it says a lot about you know, our men, their ability to prepare week in and week out, and you know, it starts with taking down a very much improved Morton football team. You know, 19-18 to start the season off. I think it was at that point we knew we had something special, because we knew that we were going to have our hands full that night, and we were able to pull it out. But to open up the first half of the season 5-0, obviously very special. Haven't been in that position for a while, so it was an exciting time for us, no question.
And you proved to yourself that the team was definitely ready, because they were bringing out dominating wins, and the defense was holding other teams to one or two scores. As you guys beat Walter Christian 55-7. You beat St. Edward's 21-7. So you showed that your defense was definitely prepared for a season like this.
Absolutely. No, it's you need to be able to excel in all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And we felt that we were prepared in all three levels. And yes, obviously our defense was able to hold teams to 17 points or less many times throughout the course of the season, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, and then there's the first game at the new stadium in Week 6 during against ICCP. So your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, obviously it's a very nice facility. We're fortunate to have that facility. It's beautiful. It took a little while to get there, but we did get there, and it was a unique week because we got on that field just a day or two before that game took place. So it was an interesting week, and it's a great stadium, and we're excited about playing some more football games there.
And finally, I'm going to ask you, so you guys finished off 8-1, and you were seeded third in the Class 6A bracket. So your thoughts on such a successful regular season?
Yeah, it was very exciting, to have that seed. As we tell the kids, the seedings are nice and all in terms of home games, but you can't get too caught up in those numbers. It's any given team on any given day. But to finish the season 8-1, we're just a couple short years ago we were 1-8. So obviously quite the turnaround, and a very exciting time when you're playing in the second season.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short break, but don't change the channel, because when we return, we're going to discuss the varsity football team's historic playoff run during the 2015 IHSA playoffs. Welcome back to Sports Recap. During this segment, Coach Curtin and I are going to discuss the 2015 varsity football team's playoff run during the IHSA playoffs. So, first two playoff games, they were both at home, and you guys played very well, and you guys won both games. The first game against St. Ignatius, second against Grays Lake North. So your thoughts on that?
Pretty exciting when you can play a playoff game at home in front of your home crowd. Walking off that field at Glenbard South in 2014, the thing we took away from that experience was that was our first postseason game for a lot of these young men, and they really didn't know what to expect. The sense of urgency, the speed of playoff games seems to increase. So I think that was something that our returning players were prepared for. And, obviously it showed in the St. Ignatius game, and it certainly showed in the Grays Lake North game. So two very exciting environments, to have one on a Friday night and then follow up the next one on a Saturday afternoon. They were 2 great days for Bulldog football.
So what are your thoughts on players like Ryan Swift and Dean Ziegler really stepping up and bringing out the offense and helping the team contribute to wins in such a tough game?
Yeah, I think Ryan and Dean have a tremendous chemistry. Not many people know Ryan and Dean were playing catch and working on those routes when they were 14 years old, when they first stepped foot on campus here at RB in that summer. And that's something that they did throughout the course of their high school careers. So that's why they had that, amazing chemistry, to know what the other person was thinking, to get open, to put the ball in certain spots. And they both excelled on the defensive side of the ball as well, and I think that was a big boost for us defensively as well, getting those guys on the defensive side of the ball.
So in these games when it's really close, what do you tell your team during timeouts or anytime you can?
I think, a lot of it is, living in the moment, not thinking about the play that just happened, not thinking about what the end result is going to be, but living in the moment, being aware of your surroundings, and doing what you've been trained to do. Because it can get overwhelming, but when you break it down and you just look at the next play that's in front of you, I think it has a way of simplifying things and slowing the game down a little bit for guys. So that's typically our message. It isn't too much X's and O's or schematics. It's control your breathing and lock in on the moment.
So what do you think are some of your favorite memories from this season?
Oh, wow. Excuse me. I mean, there are so many. I think, what I'm going to take away from this season is the relationships that were fostered throughout the course of the year, bonds that will stand the test of time, the memories of the touchdowns and the tackles and interceptions and things of that nature. That'll fade with time, but the relationships that have been developed throughout this 2015 season, and obviously a special season to boot, I think that's what I'm going to take away most. And I think, this team and this senior class setting the bar so high in terms of their preparation really paved the way for next year's Bulldogs and all the future Bulldogs.
Well, it was definitely very fun to watch. You always packed the place, and everyone seemed to have a great time watching. It was definitely very fun to see what play you were going to pull out next. But I'm sorry to say we've ran out of time, but thank you for being on my show, Mr. Curtin.
Well, thank you, Casey. Pleasure to be here.
It was very fun to interview you. But stay tuned, sports fans. When we return to Sports Recap, we'll update you guys on the 2015 varsity basketball team's start to their regular season. Welcome back to Sports Recap. Joining me on this segment is head coach of the varsity boys basketball team, Mr. Tom McCloskey. Thank you for being on my show, Mr. McCloskey.
Thanks for having me, Casey.
Now, last season was a very historic season. It was the best season we've seen by boys basketball. So heading into this season, who are some of the key players?
Well, last year we finished 28-4. It was a great year. So this year everybody's gunning for us, and we have 4 guys that started for the team last year back on the roster, and we also have a couple guys that didn't play a lot last year that have stepped up and contributed. Dean Zieglich in particular has been off to a good start. James Kasmarek had shoulder surgery last year and has contributed very well. Ryan Cecinas has been a starter so far this year, and he's an outstanding shooter, and he's going to be a good one. We have Skylar Nash that transferred from Whitney Young, and to our surprise, we knew nothing about it, and he showed up in late June at our place, and he's going to really help the team as well. And with Jalen Danico back as the guards, and Mark Smith has been off to a good year, had a huge game on Saturday, and then Henry Trellenberg will be back shortly as well. So we're looking for a big year this year.
So last year you lost lead rebounder Sam Johnson and some outside shooters such as Ryan Hanley and Kevin Fitzgerald. So how do you think those new additions can help fill those holes?
Well, the biggest thing, Sam was an incredible rebounder. He had 390 rebounds last year. So a lot of the emphasis through summer and up to this point has been on things we do in practice is to go get the ball and rebound. And we have a philosophy that in the summertime in June we play a real lot of games, and we want to play the toughest possible schedule we can find. So we get in leagues in the city. We have probably the best league in the state. We host, and I direct it here at RB, and we have 20 teams, and it's a great league against great competition. So we've played all the big boys, Simeon and Bogan, and a lot of the teams you see in the top 20 ranked in the Sun-Times or Tribune. We played them at least once in the summertime, and we consider some of our guys that haven't played very much, that's like their junior year, and they become veterans from the summer games that we play.
And the Sun-Times during the preseason ranked you guys 4th in the entire state of Illinois, which is incredible. But how can you guys possibly improve from last season?
Well, again, as I said, we have to rebound. I think we can score, but we have to have balance inside and out. Last Saturday, Mike O'Brien, the writer for the Sun-Times, called Mark Smith's performance a breakout game for him. He had 19 points, I believe, and did a real good job on the boards, and that's with a sprained ankle. He sprained his ankle last Friday on one of the last plays of the game, and Mr. Fry, our trainer, didn't think he'd be able to play, and he gutted it out, a real gutty performance, and played really well. So that was nice to see.
So coming into the season, what do you think the expectations were for record or making any runs?
Well, we always want to win the conference. We've won 14 conference championships in a row, and everybody's always gunning for us. That's their Super Bowl. We'll go into a away gym, and everybody's sky high to play RB because they know the streak of the conference championships, and they know about our basketball program. So we went to Wheaton last Friday, Wheaton Academy, and it was the same thing. They circled that date on their calendar to play Riverside Brookfield, but now it's gone into all our games because of our ranking, because of our success last year. Everybody wants to play RB and give it their best shot. So the players, have to be prepared each and every game to be ready for that kind of intense team coming at us.
Okay, and we're going to discuss that regular season when we come back, so don't change the channel, sports fans. Welcome back to Sports Recap. During this segment, Coach McCloskey and I are going to discuss the boys' varsity basketball team's great start to the regular season. So, you guys started off hosting the Bill Vandenberg tournament. How did that go?
It went very well. We played Rich Central, who was a very athletic team, and they gave us a battle, and we fortunately won that game. We played Lake Park, who was in the Elite Eight last year, and a very good program, and we beat them. And then we played a tough game against St. Lawrence from the Catholic League, and then it's developed into a rivalry now as we played Oak Park River Forest, and that's always an intense game. And I was real happy that we put together 4 really good quarters in that game and scored a lot of points and executed very well, and won that by 20, which we never expected to be going away with that game.
Now, the win against Oak Park River Forest, they're ranked 15th in state going to that game. And how did the boys make it look so easy to beat them by 20 points?
It was just one of those nights that everything we did, we were clicking. And like I said before, we play them in the summertime. They're in our summer league. We played them at Thanksgiving last year in the regional championship, and so it's developed into a rivalry, and our guys just got up for it, and it just happened to be one of those nights where everything was intense, and we hit shots, and we passed the ball well, we created turnovers, we just did a lot of things well that night.
Yeah, so you guys are 4-1 right now, and you're 4-0 at home.
We're 5-1.
5-1.
We beat Wheaton Academy on the road.
Okay, so 5-1. Do you think the fan base had anything to do with the wins at the hosting the Bill Vandenberg tournament?
Absolutely. Our sixth man is the best in the state. They are outstanding. Butch Whitkin and Urbanski and all the followers are help. They make the atmosphere so wonderful at RB, and I can't give them enough thank yous to go around, and it makes it a lot of fun. When I was really impressed this year. Some years you see the first game, there's a large 6-man, and then maybe the last game and not so many in between. But this year it was solid for all 4 nights, the number of students that came out. So we all really appreciate that very much.
Okay, so what are some games that you're going to look forward to heading into deeper into the regular season?
The big games, we find out tonight who we play at the York tournament. It's a prestigious tournament. There are 32 teams. There's a lot of really good teams in it. And last year we made it to the championship and lost to a very good Lake Forest team. Then we also play Fenwick, which is another rivalry, and they're actually ranked 3rd in some polls, and they're having a good year. Their coach Rick Malnati is a friend of mine, and they have some good players. We play St. Joe's at Batavia Shootout as well. They're a team that won a state championship last year in Class 3A. And then later on in the year, we play Morgan Park, who some people consider the best team in the state of Illinois.
Big game to look forward to.
Yeah, they have a couple nice transfers going along with some people consider the best player in the state. And we also play LT at home, which is always a huge rivalry.
And they're definitely looking for some revenge after last year when Jalen Clanton hit a clutch 3-point.
3 in the left corner off a pass from Danico, who drove and found him in the corner. It was a big shot.
It was huge. And so we're going to take a break, but don't change the channel, because when we return, we're going to talk about Mr. McCloskey's strategies on how he coaches. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Sports Recap. During this segment, Coach McCloskey and I are going to discuss how Mr. McCloskey coaches and trains his players for the regular season. So what's stressed at practice heading into the season?
Well, our practices, we practice for 2 hours every day throughout the season, and I think practice is, a lot of things in basketball are important, but practice is the top thing in how well you're going to do, and we keep it intense. We have a great staff. I would like to mention Coach Dan Herbeck and Coach Ryan Gruber. We've been together for 15 years, and then Coach Baldus, Coach Kuznars, and Coach Kraft also are great coaches. So we've great coaches on our staff, and back to practice. We try to keep things moving, keep things intense. I don't believe in me standing there talking while they're standing there. I believe more in say it once, have them do it 8 times, and keep things moving and intense, and do the things we do very well, and have our players prepared for everything that comes their way during the course of a game, and make sure they're in good condition.
Now, when you're coaching, how do you handle the atmosphere and the stress of how the game's been going, and handle all the emotions from all the players?
Well, that's something you learn to adjust to, and this is my 24th year as head coach, so experience is a great thing, and I've been through a lot of pressure situations throughout my career, and you name it, I've probably been through it. So, the past helps you prepare for that, and I always have a thing I tell myself: if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, it's a good thing. So I try to stay as calm as I can stay, and stay focused, and keep your eye on the prize, and don't get too carried away, and stay positive so your players feel that as well.
So now, being one of the top teams in Illinois, what are some strategies that you try to put into your game?
Well, I think we have a really good system. We've been using this system for quite a few years, so we believe strongly in the things we do. We're not really control freaks that have it totally structured. We give our players freedom to utilize their talents. We believe in spacing, but it's not like football where you have a set play and guys go a certain way. We teach our players how to react to different defenses and back cuts on certain ways, and do different things, but definitely we provide the players the freedom to take advantage of their talents. For example, Danico Jackson is outstanding at driving to the basket and creating shots for his teammates, so we certainly allow him to do that. He dishes off and he'll get a good shooters, wide open shots, and we feed the post. We also try to have balance. We don't just shoot jump shots. We don't just get the ball inside. We try to have good balance in our offense.
Okay. So what do you think you've learned from 24 years of coaching?
I think you keep it simple, and I think you let players utilize their talents, and you got to keep it kind of fun. I mean, don't make the huge mistake of taking all the fun out of it. We want the players to have a great experience playing at Riverside Brookfield, and when they're done playing, they come back the next Thanksgiving to watch the game and say hello, and just all in all, and it really is more than basketball. Our guys seem to get along well and enjoy the whole process.
Now, while we wrap it up, do you have a favorite memory from coaching any of your years at RB?
I have, several. I was fortunate enough to coach my son Danny and his team. His team was outstanding. We were 22-4, and he grew up with a lot of those guys, and it was a lot of fun. And anytime you win a regional, it's a major accomplishment because, like for example, we're 4A, one of the smallest 4A schools in the state. Last year was an amazing 2.5 weeks. It was really, really fun winning the sectional and all that went with it. So, but all in all, I've had a great time most every year that I've coached. So it's been fun.
Okay. Well, I'm very gracious that you were able to stop by and get interviewed by me, and thank you for being on my show, Mr. McCloskey.